Now we will start with this, the how to measure the dispersion of data. Okay, so to begin with this, we need to learn what are quartiles. So we have to understand what quartiles are, and then we will see how that quartiles are useful in determining this measurement of the dispersion of data. So let us consider this the data for attribute x, right? So say one attribute x is there and it has data, and we have sorted the data in ascending order, right? Now let us imagine that we can pick certain data points so as to split the data distribution into equal size consecutive sets. So we have to distribute the data using equal sized consecutive sets. So let us see that how this quantiles helps in this data distribution into equal size consecutive sets. Okay. Here these quantiles are points taken at regular intervals of a data distribution, dividing it into essential equal size consecutive sets. Now let us say here we are considering some regular intervals for distributing the data. So what will be the regular distribution actually? So if we consider 2 quantile, then it will be somewhat like that, dividing the data point into lower and upper halves. Okay, that means it will correspond to the median, because we will focus on to the mid value. If it can be divided into 2 equal halves, right, the lower and the upper half, then the middle position will correspond to the median. If it is 4 quantiles, then this total data, whatever the data points are present, it will be divided into 4 equal distribution. Okay, and so if we divide it into 4 equal distribution, we will find out 3 midpoints. Fine. And this particular kind of distribution means these 4 quantiles are commonly termed as quartiles. Okay, so we will use this quartiles portion in our next slide. And you have you are very accustomed to this term called percentiles nowadays. For evaluating any competitive examination, instead of percentage, we are very commonly aware to this concept of percentile. It does whatever the total number of candidates are present, the total marks acquired by, or rather whatever the marks scored by this total the total set of candidates, it will be divided into 100 equal sized consecutive sets, and then other values are calculated accordingly based on that distribution of data, and we can ultimately obtain the percentile. So let us see and distribution. If we have to consider this, because with the concept of this quartile, right, we will move to our main goal, it is outlier. As the lecture proceeds, you will find that how an outlier is helpful in discarding few data. Okay, if there are huge data set, how to collect which data are essential to build up my new model, so that we can come up with the knowledge from it. So we have to discard few data which are out of my range, so outlier will help in that. So let us see. You can see here that it has been divided into 4 equal distributions. So there will be 3 midpoints, definitely, right? The lower portion is doing what? It is cutting off the lowest 25% of the total value present, right? And where this point lies means after covering this 25% area of the total curve, that will be termed as the first point. Okay, the first quartile, and it is being denoted as Q1. And definitely, if the total area, if it has to be converted into percentile concept, you can understand, since we are just discarding 1/4 of the area, it will be nothing but 25%, right? So 25th percentile. Fine. Then if you move to rather say Q3, right, so it is doing what, it is cutting off the lowest 75% of the data, or in other words we can say it is cutting off the highest 25% of the data. Okay, and the second quartile, that is the 50th percentile, or the midpoint between Q1 and Q3 is Q2, and you can easily understand this will be the median, because the median denotes what, the mid value of the total data set, or among the total data range present. Okay, so this is the median. Now what will be interquartile range, and with the help of this we will be able to find out what outliers are, how to discard the unwanted data values from a set, that will be decided. So the interquartile range, you can easily understand, if this is a total quartile, what is the interquartile range? It will be nothing but the area between Q1 to Q3, and it can be achieved by nothing but just by subtracting Q1 from Q3. So that portion will be the interquartile range. Fine. Now what I was talking of, usually a value higher or lower than 1.5 into IQR. So you can easily see that it will obviously lie beyond this IQR, right? So whatever the data points lie outside of this region, so if just to approximate that, we are multiplying it with 1.5. It is a standard value, you can say. Okay, so any value, if we consider the multiply the IQR range with 1.5, so we again increasing the total interquartile region, right? So we are considering 1.5 more area, means 1.5 times more area in right hand side and 1.5 times more area in left hand side. So this is a standard value. Again, if it may vary, or we may change it according to our need. Okay, if we want to consider more data variables, we can increase the area. Instead of multiplying it with 1.5, we can multiply it with 2, but this is a standard value. Generally this is followed. Okay, and so whatever the data points lying beyond this range, that will be nothing but outliers. Okay, now you can say if more of the data points are lying at this area and least are locating in the region of 1.5 into IQR, I can assure you that will never happen, because whenever we are calculating the median of a particular thing, or whenever we are focusing on the more efficient area, that means we will consider that area only where most of the data points are lying. Okay, they are following the same fashion, that's why they are lying in a particular range in the 2D plane. Fine. Since the points which will be closer to one another, or rather the distance between the 2 points, which are when it will be smaller, they will lie very adjacent to each of them. Okay, so the density of the data points in a particular area will be higher, because that all the data points will be of the same fashion, or they are going to follow the same type of character. Okay, so if we can keep the range like this, that is 1.5 into IQR, both in left and right direction, then that data points will be useful, and the data points lying out of this area will be nothing but outliers, because they are going to distract us to a wrong path. If we just keep on means if we keep those values which are lying outside this IQ or into 1.5 area, that are going to distract our knowledge, right? Because there are some data points which is carrying some different features, they are not following this pattern which we are focusing to. Okay, now we know this one is a very standard tool in statistics, that is standard deviation and variance. So to calculate the standard deviation, we need variance. What is the need of standard deviation? We are going to find out from a we are studying the characteristics of particular data set. Say there are total 100 points in a data set, so we are finding out a variance, means how each data point is varying with each other, and standard deviation means the square root of variance. So if the standard deviation of a particular data is higher, that means it is deviating in a huge range from the standard value. So again we can discard that value as well. So this is a formula to find out the variance. We know n means the sample size, small n, x suffix I is the data point for which we are calculating this variance. X bar is the mean of all the data values present in that set, and if you just minimize it, it will be somewhat like this one, and it is sometimes denoted by sigma square as well. Okay, s square and sigma square are same. You can see here in the second line we have just replaced that the summation of xi whole square over n by mu, that is nothing but that is the the mean value. Okay, and this is coming to 1 by 1 upon capital N, and summation over I equals to 1 to n xi square minus mu square. So if we can find out the square root of this, the standard deviation can be calculated. Again, if you are interested in this domain, but since we are learning, why we are learning this kind of tool, because whenever we will proceed to our main area of finding out what is supervised learning, what is unsupervised learning, right? So how the data means how to reduce the dimensionality of some data, or rather say how to find out which data points are essential, how to reduce the size of data set, this will be very useful. Okay, that's why we need some basic idea about statistical tool available. Since if you want to work out more in this area, you may follow the study material that I have shared with you. There you will find and this variance has been explained with examples of a data set as well. Okay, so if you are interested, you may follow that one. Okay, next we are going to see this one. One is this box point analysis, and here we will just learn the basics of it. We are not going to use this thing more often in this syllabus. So just see, for one kind of box point analysis is what box point analysis does. What it will keep only those data variables which will lie in that box area, okay, and discard the rest. You can easily understand it is very similar to that quartile concept, right? You can see here it is doing what? It is concentrating on 5 different parameters. One is minimum means within the total value set I am having one minimum point and one maximum point. Okay, now Q1 is what? The first quartile, then Q3 is the third quartile, and the midpoint, that is Q2, which is called as second quartile, is also the median. So we are going to work with these 5 values, and this box point analysis with 5 number summary. Ultimately it will do what? It will just consider those values which will lie within this box and will discard the rest. Okay, now this box plot is being represented using this kind of diagram. You can see here the ends of the box are the first and the third quartiles. It is the height of the box is IQR. If you just follow the previous slide, there you can see that the box is nothing but it starts with Q1 and ends at Q3, and the middle point is definitely the median. Okay, so in this fashion you can represent the data. It's a snapshot given there. Okay, now you can see here the outliers are what? Points beyond a specified outlier threshold plotted individually. So here why this outliers are dependent on threshold? As I told you that a standard procedure says if we can multiply my interquartile region with 1.5 and any point lying beyond that range, whether at the lower limit or at the upper limit, we are just going to treat those data variables as the outliers. But still it may vary with different kinds of situation, when that it may depend on the data set, how many data are present in the data set. It may depend on with which kind of data set or which model we are trying to generate from that data set. Okay, it will totally depend on the situation. So here, instead of just specifying that threshold value, which was 1.5 in my previous case, here it may vary accordingly. Okay, so that whoever is programming it or whoever is designing the model, he may decide it. Now we will see one more important thing, that is how to find the similarity and dissimilarity of data points. But here we are going to stick morely to this dissimilarity. We are going to construct some matrix how to measure the dissimilarity of two data points, and we will see one thing that is called cosine similarity. And this proximity I have left for you. You may read it from the study material that I am going to share, or you may skip it because we are not going to go into the details of proximity in this lecture series. Okay, we will keep it off till now, but still what similarity does, it is a numerical measure of how alike two data objects are. You can understand that we are going to find out the similarity between two data objects, right? How it will be done, that we will learn in the cosine similarity after 2 or 3 slides. Okay, then dissimilarity will do what? You will see the example of dissimilarity as well. How we are going to understand that okay, these 2 points are dissimilar. You can easily understand that if we can plot the data points in 2D plane and can measure the distance between each of them, whenever the distance is higher, we can say that dissimilarity between them is more and similarity between them is less, right? Or in other words, if the distance is smaller, the similarity is more and dissimilarity is less. Okay, so there are methods to find out the dissimilarity of the data points, and proximity can measure both similarity or dissimilarity, but again we are not going to learn the details of proximity in this lecture series. If you are interested, you may go through the study materials that I have shared. Okay, now see, here we are using two matrix. One is called data matrix. Data matrix is doing what? You can see it is representing n data points with p dimensions, right? So in other words, what are those? N is a number of objects. You can see here the first object is x1 and p is the number of attributes. That means to describe particularly x1, we are having p attributes to define it. Say x denotes student. Okay, so student 1 can be described with the help of p attributes. That means say id, say name, say father's name, say in which class he or she is studying, right? Then can be blood group, can be height, can be previous qualification, whatever. Okay, so there are p number of attributes. So to define a particular x, rather x1, we are using p different attributes, right? Similarly for second variable, it's x2, similarly for another variable. Okay, so this is the data matrix to represent a particular data using p different attributes. You can use the matrix. Okay. Now how to find this dissimilarity matrix? Just for now, just see this one, and in the later slides we are going to learn with an example. Okay, you can see here in the first cell, that is, if we consider it as 1 1, it is 0. Why? Because it is going to measure d11. That means what? d11 means the distance between x1 to x1. So distance between x1 and x1 will be what? 0. The next is d21, that is the distance between x2 and x1. Another thing you can see here, it is having only lower triangle. Okay, you may represent it in the mirror image fashion as well. That means we can calculate d12 instead of d21. That means what will happen in that case? The second cell, that is the first row second column, will be d12 and the second row first column will be nothing, null. Okay, we are going to store to the upper triangular portion and keep the lower triangle blank, but we are not going to store it both the fashion because it will duplicate the value, nothing else. Okay, so this is the way in which we can find out the dissimilarity matrix. So without talking more, let us just directly move to the example. You can see here there are 4 points lying. It has been very well plotted in a 2D plane. Okay, you can see there are 4 data points present: x1, x2, x3 and x4. You can see x1 is lying at in x-axis it is cutting at for 1 value, and in y-axis it is at 2. Okay, so in the data matrix you can see we have labeled x1, the attribute, first attribute, let us say it is marking at the x-axis, so it is 1. Okay, and attribute 2 is marking at the y-axis, it is 2. So the data point, first data point is 1, 2. Similarly for x2, x3 and x4. Okay, now we are going to find out the distance between them. You can see here within bracket it is written Euclidean distance. Do not get confused. For now we will just see that where the distance we have calculated, where we have not calculated. In the later slide we are going to learn how to calculate Euclidean distance, what is the formula to calculate the distance between two data points. Okay, so here again the distance between x1 and x2 will be 0. Now x2 to x1 will be calculated using Euclidean distance. Similarly the total matrix will be constructed, but to know how to construct we have to learn what Euclidean distance is. Before going to Euclidean distance we have to learn what Minkowski distance formula is. Minkowski does what? It is a standard formula from which we can find different kind of distance parameters invented by different scientists, but this is the standard formula. Okay, you can see here distance between I and j is being calculated with square root, not square root, sorry, the root upon this is the h. So that h value we will change accordingly whether we are using which kind of distance or using which formula to calculate the distance. Okay, so this is the standard formula. So we can see how this formula can be used. You can see here whenever h is equals to 1, that distance is called Manhattan distance. Okay, if you remember we have used this distance parameter to calculate the Hamming distance. In networking we have learned that how to calculate the number of bits, how it is varying. Okay, what are the changes or what are the erroneous data that my receiving end has received. So if we have to calculate Manhattan in the previous formula of this Minkowski distance, we are going to put h equals to 1. So if we put h equals to 1, it will be somewhat like this. So if it is like this, that means what? We are not since the root has the value of h has become 1, so there is no meaning of keeping the root, and the data points will be calculated by just subtracting and finding out. Just see, just keeping the magnitude part and discarding the sign. So if we subtract the second value from the first or the first value from the second, the same thing will happen because we are just keeping the magnitude part, and the Euclidean distance where h will be equals to 2. Okay, so again let us visit that example or revisit that example. You can see here if we use this Minkowski form, here the data matrix is above the graph only. Okay, so the first point is 1 2 and the second point is 3 5. Fine, so the distance between x2 and x1 will be what? 3 minus 1 plus 5 minus 2 according to the formula, because there are two attributes only. If there are n number of attributes, it will follow the same fashion. Okay, so for attribute 1 it will be 3 minus 1, and for attribute 2 it will be 5 minus 2. If there are n attributes, it will follow accordingly. So here 3 minus 1 is 2 plus 5 minus 2 is 3. So here 2 plus 3 will be 5. Similarly, and the rest will work similarly. If we find out Euclidean distance, it will be like 3 minus 1 whole square plus 5 minus 2 whole square and square root of it, right? So it will be 3.61. You may try it at your home. You may take a calculator and just verify whether the values present here are correct or not. Fine. So in this fashion you can see that in this total matrix, okay, but remember one thing, in most of the cases Euclidean distance gives a better result than that of Manhattan. Okay, you can see here, if we consider this table of Euclidean matrix, we can say out of whatever the data points are available, I am not talking of x1 comma x1, but you can see here x4 comma x2 are more similar, right? Rather x4 comma x3 are least similar, right? So let us see at the graph whether it is resulting correct or not. You can see here that x2 and x4 are lying very close to one another, but if you consider x4 and x3, can you just see the distance between them? So it is very easily understandable that this is working fine, and using this one we can find the dissimilarity of data points, and again if you look in a reverse manner we can also find a similarity as well. Okay, now last topic which we are going to cover today is cosine similarity. This is very useful whenever we just want to learn the frequency of occurrence of each character in many documents. Right, so here we will pick up some key points. You can find out that if we have to analyze any text, right, or if we have to find out the emotion of any text, we always try to find out the keywords and want to find that how many times it has occurred. Based on that we can come to the conclusion that this my say some people are commenting in or so rather tweeting, okay, in Twitter handler, then using of words means what kind of word he or she is using more frequently, we can come up with the emotion, okay, this person is happy, or he or she is interested in this particular tweet, okay, or he or she is just feeling negative on this tweet. So using this frequency count or using the number of times each word has been used, we can predict. This is an application I was talking of. Rather, in this lecture we will just find out how to use this cosine similarity in finding out the similarity between the documents. Okay, you can see here we have fetched some key words, that is team, coach, hockey, baseball, etc, etc, and there are 4 documents, and the occurrence of each word in a particular document has been written in the matrix. That is, in document 1, team word has occurred 5 times, coach word has occurred never, that is 0, hockey has been occurred 3 times, and similarly for other words and for other documents. Now each particular line will be treated as a vector, okay, or term frequency vector. If you remember, we have learned basics of it. So the term frequency vector of D1 or document 1 will be 5, 0, 3, 0, 2, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0, okay, and D2 will be 3, 0, 2, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. We can see from the table. Now this is the formula to find out how similar these two documents are. You can see here it is just following the pattern of cosine. That is, we will find out the dot product of D1 and D2 and will divide it by the magnitude of it, or the length of D1 and D2. So let us see that how it has been calculated. Okay. So you can see we have fetched out 2 vectors, D1 and D2. Now if we find out the dot product of D1 and D2, it will be 5. Just see, we are multiplying the first element of first vector with the first element of the second vector, that is 5 into 3 plus 0 into 0 plus 3 into 2 and so on. So it will come up to 25. Okay, now the length of this D1, why it has been multiplied 5 into 5 then 0 into 0, because we are comparing two documents, okay, and since we are finding out the similarity between 2 different documents, so the average of 2 we are going to raise the power with 0.5, okay. So means that is the way how to find out the length of the vector, okay. So this is the formula to find out the length of the vector. Raised to 0.5 means what? It is root over, means the half, okay, to the power half. So it will be 42 to the power 0.5, it will be 6.481, and similarly for D2 it will be 4.12. So just put it in the formula, that is D1 dot D2 by this one, so it will be 0.94. That means these two documents are 94% similar. Fine. And if you have forgotten this one, how to find out the length of each vector, just refer to any of the standard books of vector. You will find out that how to find the length of a vector. We have learnt in our school level, okay, how to find out the length of the vector, or rather you may follow this book as well to practice more. Okay, and with this we are going to end up this lectures, and in the next lecture we are going to start with data pre-processing tools. Thank you.